So the first time I ever stepped foot in a church was at the age of 14. And I remember they were offering free passes for teens to go to the amusement park. You have the thought from where we're from, I came from a very inner city neighborhood. You have the thought that you will never even get to see these places because you don't have enough money to, spend so much money on one day of fun to go to an amusement park such as that, especially because I come from a family of 6 kids. So imagine going to an amusement park times 6. And my mom had to think about that as a single mom, working 2 jobs all the time. And it just doesn't seem like it's really possible. My cousin actually said, hey, let's go. Like, if you just show up on Saturday, they'll pay for your way into this amusement park. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, this is probably a once in a lifetime deal. Like, I'm there. And the whole ride up there, so it was like a 2-hour drive. We tend to talk about questions that I've probably never thought about before. For example, like the idea of going to heaven. They talked about knowing Jesus Christ as a savior, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I really don't even understand what that really means. Because at the age of 14, it was really hard for me to see life outside of everything that I was experiencing. We lived in the middle of an inner city neighborhood where violence would happen all the time. I mean, there's drugs around everywhere. And the pinnacle of success for people growing up in that area was to make it out. That was the end all be all, to make it out of there. The whole time at the amusement park, you think that, oh, a 14-year-old is going to this amusement park. Like, only thing he thinks about is candy and riding these rides and having this experience. But the whole time I was at the amusement park, I was like, what do I think about these things? But about 6 months later, after going to the church somewhat regularly on a Sunday, he had an altar call. And I have never been a child or an adult, for that matter, that could easily go into tears. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, I just feel so heavy. I feel heavy. I started crying in the front of the church. And he had an altar call, and I was like, man, like if I don't do anything right now, I feel like I need to go up there. I feel like I need to go up there because even as a 15-year-old child, I know what I was doing is not going to lead me anywhere but what I've seen happen in my environment. I went up to the altar call, I physically said the words, I found out what it means to be saved by Christ, to accept his salvation into your life. But then that started the journey. You can say the words of accepting Christ into your life, but at that point, I was fighting the idea of purpose. I kept asking so many times, Lord, what is my purpose in life? Like, I know you don't mean for us to be homeless. I know you don't mean for us to be in this situation, but at the same time, it's so hard to fight the environment. The environment was speaking way louder for those 3 years, I think, than Christ was in my life. And it had a lot to do with what would I spend a lot of my time in. I'll spend a lot of my time in my environment. At the age of 15, 16, 17, I didn't really have the discipline or even the motivation to say, okay, let me sit down and figure out what my Bible has to say about this. At the age of 18, there was 2 different kind of crowds in my environment. It was the people who, for lack of a better term, belonged to the street. They would do everything in the streets from sun up to sundown. That's where they would be all the time in the neighborhoods. And there were the athletes. The athletic bug hit me. And I started playing all the sports, but football grabbed a hold of my attention the most. And the more that I would be in football practice, the less I would be in my environment. I guarantee, it's crazy, my senior year, At the beginning of senior year, not a bone in my body was ever thinking about college. College is something that we do not do. Like, it's just not, like, you graduate high school, you're done. Like, what? College? Makes no sense. And then I seen a lot of my teammates getting letters, or, you would get an offer letter. And I went to a junior college, and that is where I let, the affirmations get to me. Now the purpose was, I do what I do to get attention. And I was just praying one night, and I just felt, man, I am so empty from these affirmations. These affirmations are not doing it. I'm like, Lord, if there's anything you can do in my life to turn this around, I feel lost. And that is when, and this is crazy, that is when I start reading my offer letters. I got an offer letter from a Christian college, one I did not know existed. I have an offer letter to this Christian college that I can go and grow in my faith. It's very small, probably the smallest place I've ever played. Or I can go to, at that time, my biggest offer sheet was Sacramento State. But once again, sitting down and praying because I was desperate. I was desperate for a change. Sitting down and praying, and God was like, this is the chance. I went to the Christian college there. For the first time, I realized that there are other people my age in the world walking a walk towards Christ. And there was other people in the world that struggled with, what does it look like to be a teenager and pursue Christ? For the first time in my life, there was other people in the world who actually cared more about their salvation and who Christ has made them to be than they care about affirmations from others. Then they care about their immediate circumstances. Then they care about any of that other things. And so I said the words when I was about 15 that I accept Christ, but I don't think I owned it until the age of 19. My name is Renard, and God has definitely changed my life.